Hey guys, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And this is going to be one of the many workshops we had in autumn to make up for one of the weeks I was gone. And today, this is a really important subject. You can apply it to a lot of different things, but it's about how to get the most out of guitar lessons, which I think is something that's really hard to remember to talk about during lesson time, but can really make the difference between you really enjoying learning to play the guitar or it being just a struggle. So the first thing is that I want you to focus on becoming an expert at practicing. And notice I didn't say focus on becoming a great guitar player. Being a good guitar player is the product of being really good at practicing. If you focus on getting better in your personal practice, enjoying it more, learning new strategies, that's when you're going to take off and you're going to be able to learn things really quickly. So it's super exciting. This is the same thing as the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching a man to fish. Me giving you a fish would be teaching you how to play a song. And it's great for you to know how to play a song, and that's a lot of what we do as musicians. But what is even more important is that you learn something along the way that will help you learn the next song. Makes you better at practicing, makes you understand music more. So that's what today is about. This steady relationship between you and music is what's going to lead to great musicality. And then also you'll see a bullet point on your handout that says distributed practice. And this is about the fact that it doesn't happen immediately. Obviously, you know by now, you don't become a great guitar player overnight. But overnight, when you're sleeping, is when a lot of the great work really happens. Because you have to practice and work hard, sleep on it, practice and work hard, sleep on it, over and over again. Over a period of sometimes 6 months, sometimes 2 years, but eventually you're going to feel like I've mastered some concepts on the guitar and I can make some beautiful music. The 3 practice methods I named here are my 3 favorite, and that's slow motion practice, isolations, and chaining. Slow motion practice is self-explanatory. Go really slow and play everything perfectly. It takes a lot of patience, but it's really one of the things you should start out with on every song. I don't stay there for very long, but it is a necessary part of it. The next thing is an isolations. I have my students do this all the time because it's the quickest way to learn. You get the most bang for your buck when you just do the left hand isolated and then you just do the right hand. It makes you learn so much faster. It turns 6 weeks of practicing into 1 week of practicing. And then the last one, which is a great practice method, is chaining, and that's where you learn a little section. You learn a little section. Then you play the first section plus the first note of the second. And if that doesn't make sense, ask me about it in lessons. We'll talk about it more. But it's a very simple way to learn how to play pretty much any song. Okay, the next headline is struggle during the week and come in with questions. And I also included a quote by Andres Segovia, who's known as a father of the classical guitar. And he said, every artist is essentially self-taught. And there's a lot of truth to that. If you rely totally on me or anyone else to teach you, it probably won't work because there has to be a lot of experimentation on your part. A good teacher can open up doors and shed new light on things, but there's got to be a lot of the time where you're sitting in your bedroom thinking, what happens if I turn my wrist a little bit more like this? What happens if I focus on just my left hand? You have to become a scientist and start experimenting with the little ideas that you think of. And I love it whenever I have a student come in and say, I had a terrible week of practice. I just worked in this, and I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I could never get it. Because 9 times out of 10, we're going to get it together in the lesson. When you struggle during the week, that increases our odds of making it happen in the lesson tenfold. So if you're struggling, just remember that. That's a good thing, a good place to be. And then also, the second part is after you struggle, come in with a question. How come I can't stretch this far? How can I play faster? Whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish, when you have a targeted question that you've been struggling with, that's when we get the most out of our time together. I like this distinction right here. It's the balance between perfectionism and sloppiness. You could also say the balance between people who are intuitive, big picture, and people who are little picture or more detail oriented. Everyone struggles with one more than the other. So I want you to think about it right now. Which one are you? Are you more perfectionistic and detail oriented? Or are you a little sloppy and big picture? There's advantages and disadvantages to both. And I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely struggle with being more sloppy. I don't know if that comes as a surprise or not. But I am much more intuitive, big picture. I don't really care about the details naturally. But since I know that about myself, I've done a lot of work to make myself a technical, meticulous guitar player, but it didn't come naturally. But I do have a lot of students that are perfectionistic, and they'll get so caught up on a song that they won't be able to move forward until every note's perfect. And a lot of times, although that's a good way to learn, a lot of times that can keep you from being musical, and it can make performing and playing unenjoyable. The thing that's bad about sloppiness and being big picture is sometimes it will hinder your technique and make you feel stuck. Ideally, we're looking for a balance of both. And then the last thing is thinking of your relationship with music and the guitar holistically. A lot of the times when we think practice, we think just the first little section of practice, which is repertoire, learning songs, sitting down in your room, looking at some music and trying to play it every day. That is one part of being a musician. There's so many other things that are helpful, and you need to branch out to these other ones if you want to feel solid and like, okay, I can do this. So some of the other ones besides repertoire are composing. That's a big one for me. Composing and teaching. So if you have a cousin or a sibling or a daughter, whatever, that you can teach something, that will help you. If you can write something with a technique that's similar to something we're working on, that will help you in ways that just learning songs won't. Improvising, you can make up stuff with chords or scales. Performing at our performance classes or for friends and family has a magical effect on your guitar playing. Whenever you perform and that pressure is put on you and you have that extra incentive to work hard at something, it really makes the difference between a beginner and someone who really knows what they're doing. Recording, this doesn't have to be fancy. You can do it on an iPhone as a great way to practice, and you get that instant feedback of, ooh, that didn't sound too good, let me try it again. And you can just delete it and do it over again. Learning about theory is really fun. I'm a theory nerd, and whenever you learn something and you understand it better, it will transfer to your hands over time. Jamming with other musicians is great. Attending live music is scientifically proven to make musicians better. If you're watching an expert play the guitar, or you're seeing that drummer keep perfect rhythm, all that stuff is subconsciously kind of going into your practice. Listening to music, this can be in your car or on a walk. Especially if you're listening to the songs we're working on, that's just going to make it easier and easier for you to be a great guitar player. And then I always have to include this. I'm big on sleeping, if you haven't noticed. But napping is an essential part of practice. The motor skills that you're developing can only come after your brain has had time to shut off and work on those motor skills. So it'll happen at night naturally while you're sleeping. But that's the slow way to do it. If you really want the most bang for your buck, you can incorporate napping right after your practice. Studies show a 20-minute nap is enough time for you not to feel groggy, but also for those new motor skills to set in subconsciously. And then it will become part of your deep muscle memory, and all of a sudden that change that you had a problem with 20 minutes before just feels really natural. Try it. It's really fun. And I think the last thing I want to leave you with is whenever you come into a lesson, I always say, how was your practice this week? And so I'm not necessarily just asking how many minutes or days did you sit in front of a piece of music? That's an important part of what we do, and you need to do it. But I'm also asking, did you listen to these songs in your car? Did you go see a live show? Were you inspired by a YouTube video? Did you try recording a song on your iPhone? Did you make up something whenever you were too tired to practice? All of those things count as practice and will make you a much more holistic musician. So, I hope this is encouraging, and I will look forward to helping you answer some of those questions at your next lesson. Bye.